G'day guys, welcome back to Reach Me or Teach Me. State of Origin is 1 week away, and in the lead up to State of Origin, I am going to bring out a video each day that gives a little bit more information about the game itself and the players involved, the teams involved, etc. in the hope that you guys will check all of these out, get a little bit of info about the game, learn a little bit about it, and then tune into the live stream next Wednesday. It all starts with the difference between rugby union and rugby league. A lot of the comments I've been receiving, when I refer to rugby league, I think you guys are hearing rugby. They are two very different sports. They have the same core concept, but completely different rule sets, different number of players, etc. Totally different game. And 90% of the comments that I'm getting, I think most of you are referring to the game of rugby union. And this video here is the key important first step in you guys understanding rugby league, because rugby union can actually be pretty boring at times. It's a much more of a chess match, a game of patience, position, whereas rugby league is a lot more action-packed, a lot more fast-paced, can be quite an exciting game to watch, and I think it's something that the American audiences, if they give it a chance, will really enjoy. So I'm going to stop waffling, watch this video, and we'll have a chat afterwards.
Explains the differences between rugby union and rugby league and a whole lot more. But first, a history lesson. Back in 1823, at a local football match in the town of Rugby, an English schoolboy named William Webb Ellis supposedly picked up the ball and ran with it. Pretty soon this became a popular game, and in 1871 led to the creation of the governing body known as the RFU, the Rugby Football Union, of which still exists today. That's nice and all, but why are there two different kinds? Back then, there were two different kinds of players. Firstly, there were the amateurs.
I won't pause it too much during this video, but my understanding of the history of rugby league and rugby union, the two codes split, and a lot of it came down to money, but it was that, in my understanding, is that basically the south of England essentially split from the north of England in the rugby side of things. And the south of England is now predominantly a rugby league destination, while the north of England is the predominant rugby union destination. And a lot of it came down to class warfare, like England has suffered for centuries. Essentially, rugby league is played still to this day by more of a blue-collar, working-class type, whereas rugby union is still very much a private schoolboy, aristocratic type of history and origin, and I think that still runs through its actual core to this day. So they are two very different sports, and part of the beauty of rugby league is the blue-collar, working-class nature of it.
These were public schoolboys or people rich enough to play the game for free and who didn't need to be paid. Secondly, there were the professionals. These are the people who were so poor that they needed to be paid to play a child's game because they couldn't afford time off work.
How crazy.
Nowadays, being a professional sportsman is quite a good job, but back then it was seen as worse than prostitution.
Wow.
Professionals were usually from the north of England, usually from Lancashire and Yorkshire. Pretty soon though, they realised that being paid money to play a game wasn't such a bad idea and started forming fully professional teams. The RFU, not happy that these northern professionals were beating the southern amateurs at their own game and being paid quite well for it, decided to ban professionals, ban professional sports teams, and anyone playing professionals or professional sports teams. The professionals, not liking this, set up their own league in 1895 and called themselves the Northern Rugby Football Union, later to be named Rugby League, whilst the RFU named their sport Rugby Union. These two sports have been separate ever since 1895, and to this day you'll find most of the professional rugby league teams in the north of England, and most of the professional rugby union teams located.
So I had it right, but just reversed. Again, it was a class warfare thing. All the southern toffs, as they say, all the rich aristocrats, and then the northern players. So they were professional players. They got paid to play the game because they had to, because they were so poor. Whereas the rich people down south, they didn't need to be paid to play a silly children's game. How funny, how much the world has changed.
In the south. Okay, so what is the difference? In general, both kinds of rugby have the same idea. You have to run with the ball and touch it down onto your opponent's in-goal area to score. You can pass the ball sideways or backwards, but not forwards. The opponents have to stop you by grabbing the ball carrier and pulling him to the floor. The main difference between
That's about all there is, simile. The rest of it is totally different.
the two sports is what happens after the tackle. In rugby union, the tackle is contested. This means that as soon as a tackle has been made, the ball carrier must let go of the ball. This also means in theory that either player on either team can pick it up and run with it. This is known as the ruck, and it looks like a giant mess of bodies pushing each other and lying around on the floor a bit, and it is, sort of. In rugby league, however, the tackle is uncontested. After the ball carrier is tackled, the opponent must let go of him, and his team must retreat.
That one rule change totally transforms the entire game.
10 metres, they must allow the ball carrier to kick the ball back to a teammate, and then they try and run forwards with the ball again. The team with the ball is allowed up to 6 tackles.
So in rugby league, it's a little bit more NFL style. So there's a set number of downs. You guys have 4 to get your 10 yards. We have 6 tackles, we call them, but 6 downs if you'd like, to score. So if you get to the 5th down and you haven't scored, or you're not looking like you're in a position to score, that's when our punter, who just stays on the field the whole time, will just kick the ball down the end of the field to get into a better position so that at least the opposition's not in an attacking spot. But this one rule change, having as soon as the player is tackled or downed, it's just like NFL. The play stops temporarily, they get up, they play the ball, the 2 teams retreat back to their spots. Whereas in rugby, it's just this constant, messy, rolling, and it can be very, very hard for someone who's not efficient or affiliate with the game to follow, whereas rugby league is a really simplistic game to follow. It's some argue that it's dumbed down rugby union, but I argue that they've taken all of the good exciting bits out of rugby and essentially eliminated a lot of the boring bits.
To score before the referee gives the ball to the other team so that they can have their 6 tackles. This might seem like a minor rule change, but this has resulted in 2 almost completely different sports. Other differences include 15 men play in a rugby union team as opposed to 13 men in a rugby league team. 5 points for a try in union, 4 points for a try in league, 3 points for a penalty kick in union, 2 points in league, 3 points for a drop goal in union, but only 1 point in league. There are many other rules that differ between the 2 codes of rugby, but those are the main ones you need to know about. American football fans who watch rugby league for the first time generally understand it very quickly, as these 2...
Cool, so there you go. So again, rugby league is quite easy to get a grasp of and quite easy to follow. Rugby union is a complex, chaotic nightmare. Has its own beautiful intricacies and nuances, but you really have to invest yourself in rugby to be able to enjoy rugby. Whereas rugby league, it's just full of hits and action, and it's great. It's just good fun for a casual supporter to watch.
2 sports are very similar. The same cannot be said about rugby union, which will forever confuse our American friends for years to come. So why did rugby league change the rules? If you remember the professionals of 1895, they needed to be paid. To make more money from spectators, they had to change the rules of the game to make it more exciting for spectators to watch. This includes reducing the scoring, reducing the number of men, and including an even amount of possession by limiting the tackles per team. This is why some people say that rugby league is more exciting to watch. Union fans would argue that they dumbed down the rules because their tiny little northern monkey brains couldn't understand rugby union, but this is certainly not the case. Union fans refer to rugby league players as idiots.
But that, again, there's been a few comments that I've had on the channel about cricket and rugby being American-wise, you sort of associate it with the stuffy aristocratic English overlords looking down on you. And you're quite right, rugby union, and to a certain extent cricket, is very much an English game, and it has that looking down. Again, we've dumbed down the rules in rugby league. It just depends on how you look at it. Again, dumbing down the rules, or we've made the game more exciting, more easy to follow.
Whereas league fans think of union players as fat public schoolboys who can't take a hit. So what's more popular? Rugby union is the more popular sport as it's been around for longer. It's also the de facto code of rugby that you'll probably learn in school. Only a handful of countries play rugby league, and in fact, the only country where rugby league is more popular than rugby union is Australia. But in reality, when most people say rugby, they're usually referring to rugby union. So which is better? To answer that question, let's use an analogy of chess and checkers. Checkers, like rugby league, is a very simple game to understand. Every piece is the same, and they all have an equal role. It's a fast game, and you really don't need to be a genius to understand what's going on. Chess, like rugby union, is an infinitely more complicated game to understand. Some pieces are different than others and perform different roles. It's a much slower game, and it's all about strategy and tactics. You have to be more tactically aware to play rugby union, but you have to be fitter to play rugby league, as your job mainly consists of running with the ball and being smashed in the face for 80 minutes.
I will disagree with both of those comments. I think you actually probably have to be fitter to play rugby union because it's non-stop. It's just 80 minutes of doesn't have that stop in between each play. Whereas rugby league, every play there's a stop, chance for a player to, even if it's only a couple of seconds, just to get their breath, get themselves their feet under themselves again. So I would actually say that you have to be fitter to play rugby union. However, he's quite right in that rugby league is checkers and chess. Not so much in that in rugby league all the pieces are the same. That's quite wrong. It's very much like chess. You've got forwards, you've got backs, you've got attackers, you've got strikers and finishers, you've got playmakers. It's very different to how he described it then, but the analogy is correct. Checkers is a very simple game to even though they're both played on the same board with similar number of pieces. Chess is a very complicated, nuanced game, and that is a good comparison of these two.
So the question is, which do you prefer? Chess or checkers? Rugby league or rugby union? The only way you'll truly know is to watch or play both kinds of games and deciding for yourself.
Which one do you prefer, chess or checkers? Well, the reality is, if you've got the time to invest and learn chess and understand and really know the game of chess, chess is a fantastic game. But if you just want to sit down and have some fun for a little bit, it's hard because you have to know everything about chess to enjoy chess. So, yeah, it's not a bad analogy, to be honest. All right, so that's the start, folks. I've got, I say, one video each day. I've got a little timetable and a schedule. I'm going to drill down into more and more detail as we go. But the first step was understanding that rugby league is not rugby union, and I really want you guys to give it a go. Rugby league is an exciting sport. It's easy to follow. Almost all of the action happens on screen. So I just think it's just tailor-made and customized for the American audiences. But there's always been this psychological block because I think you guys hear that first word of rugby and just instantly stop. Whereas, yeah, give this game a go, guys, and I promise you will enjoy it. Anyway, it'd really help if you share these videos that I'm about to upload over the next few days. Anything you can do to help get the word out there and spread the word, about rugby league and the fact that it's totally different to rugby, and try and bring some people into the live stream. If I can get a few people watching that live stream, I'm sure I can convert you guys to rugby league fans. I'm not saying don't watch NFL or don't watch your baseball or ice hockey anymore. I'm saying give rugby league a chance, and I think you'll add it to your list of sports you really like. Anyway, guys, if you haven't already done so, hit the subscribe button, and we'll see you in the next one.